Let me just first of all go through some of the data points here, because I was there at the exit poll when these numbers were being put together, and so I have a bit of kind of extra colour I could perhaps give you on just on the numbers. First off, just the scale of what we're looking at. We have never seen an electoral collapse like this. So looking at the change in the share of the vote specifically, what the Conservatives have experienced in terms of the fall in their support has been worse than anything we can see going back decades, possibly ever. It's worse than the Lib Dems collapse in 2015, which up until now was one of the most historic collapses we'd ever seen. This is worse, and it's happening to the governing party, which again is something that might be unprecedented. There's so much that's unprecedented about this. It looks as if it's going to establish the record of the swing. So looking at the overall swing from Conservative to the Labour Party, it looks like it's potentially going to beat Blair, although we'll have to see when those numbers come in. Obviously, the majority itself, around 170. Conservatives themselves, number of Conservatives MPs, on track for being basically the worst in the history of the Conservative Party, at least the modern Conservative Party, the worst I've seen going back to 1830s. So there are just record after record that have been broken. But one thing that ties everything together is people have gone out there, according to the exit poll, and I should say all of this is what the exit poll is suggesting. It does have an excellent record, but we do need to see whether it's borne out by the results that we get in constituency after constituency. But everything suggests people were out there essentially voting in constituencies around the country against the Conservative Party. And that question of how much support Labour have, well, looking at the share of the vote, looking at the implied share of the vote from what we know from the exit poll, it implies a share of the vote that's lower than Jeremy Corbyn received in 2017, considerably lower. So a lot of people will ask, does this mean support for Keir Starmer, or does it mean that people just simply wanted to vote the Conservatives out? The Reform Party doing better than so many people had expected, with 13 seats, up obviously from 0 as a new party. But even more significantly, their share of the vote looks like it's greater than the Liberal Democrat share of the vote, and the Lib Dems have come away with 61 seats. So Reform having an enormous impact on this election, partly in terms of destroying a lot of the Conservative support, partly in terms of getting some of those MPs. But broadly speaking, that message that the Conservatives were trying to give, vote Reform, get the Labour Party, well, that's precisely what's happened. As for whether this is a supermajority or not, I think that's one of those arguments. Final thing I would just say, the SNP, this is a story that might well be dwarfed by this UK narrative in terms of the UK House of Commons, but the SNP facing a cataclysmic collapse in their MPs in Scotland. So some extraordinary stories, Kate, but we'll bring you more data, more charts in the coming hours.